Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
Will the clerk please distribute the amendment? Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with. The gentleman is recognized for the purpose of explaining his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment seeks to prohibit the teaching of critical race theory at the United States Military Academy and the other military academies, the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy. Mr. Chairman, my colleagues may remember testimony from Secretary Austin last year who said, quote, "We do not teach critical race theory. We do not embrace critical race theory." And I think this is a spurious conversation. He essentially said, "We don't do this and you're making it up." You may remember, Mr. Chairman, that I then held up a deck of slides titled "How to Cope with Your Whiteness and Your White Rage," which was brought to me by the family of a cadet at West Point who was rightly incensed that this was being taught to cadets at West Point. Mr. Chairman, I seek to enter that into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, you remember that following that, I entered in the record at the time. I'd like to enter in again a letter from the superintendent of West Point where I outlaid my concerns. And as a reply, he said he had in his curriculum at West Point, Critical Race Theory 101 as part of the curriculum, and also discussed the fact that over 100 cadets attended the How to Cope with Your White Rage seminar. And since that time, we've had a series of FOIA requests that have resulted in 600 pages of CRT material that has been released to the public, a few examples of which include a slide that I'd also like to enter into the record titled "Whiteness," that's being taught at West Point, where it says whiteness is
Without
a race of
so
privilege.
Ordered, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I enter that into the record?
Right. Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. A standpoint or a place from which white people look at themselves and the rest of the society. Privilege is whiteness. And just another example, quote, "Race and the invisible hand, how white networks exclude black men from blue-collar jobs." And just by dint of context here, this isn't history, which I fully support, a wide open and wide-eyed teaching of history at all of our academies. They're saying this is the case today. Now, this is not history. This is what they're indoctrinating today. This amendment seeks to restore a previous OPM guidance that says this type of divisive material should not be taught in our military, should not be taught in our military academies. I just think this is absolute common sense. And the last thing we should need is a teaching of oppressed and oppressors or privilege amongst our military leaders. Mr. Chairman, I yield.